Featuring a beautifully compact body, a solid autofocus system, huge battery life, and very good image quality, the D3400 is also incredibly easy to use for the first-time user. The D3400 is the latest in a line of Nikon entry-level DSLRs that adheres to a no-frills template, one that prioritizes small size, light weight, and a simple design, all the while maintaining the benefits of an interchangeable lens system. Overall, the camera delivers very good photo and video quality for its price. Thanks to its new sensor, the same resolution as the D3300, but without an anti-aliasing filter to slightly unsharpen the image, the D3400 delivers slightly sharper photos in low light than its predecessor. They don't seem to have better tonal range in shadows and highlights than before, but the extra sharpness makes a difference. As a standard, you buy the D3400 with the 18 to 55mm kit lens. This is a retractable design, so it folds up a little smaller when not in use than when it's fully extended state. Although this means the camera will take up less room in your kit bag, you have the added faff of extending the lens before you can use it. There's a decent array of dials and buttons, although not quite as many as you'd find on a more advanced camera. On the top of the camera is a large mode dial, which features plenty of options that a beginner is likely to want to use. As well as the standard auto mode, there are also the more advanced PASM modes that you'll likely progress to as you become a little more advanced. A couple of the interesting modes on the dial are Guide and Effects. The former is something I've been seeing on Nikon's entry-level model for quite a few generations now, and is indicative of the kind of user the company is targeting with this camera. It helps beginners get to learn and understand how their camera works, and how they can best use the device to get the type of pictures they're after. The ultimate aim of the mode is that once you're familiar with what to do, you'll be able to achieve those shots unaided. The shutter release button can be found in the position that your forefinger naturally rests on the top of the camera. Just behind it is a discreet and small video record button. Flip to the back of the camera and you'll see that most of the buttons for making changes to settings are grouped together on the right, while those you need to access menus, playback options, and so on are on the left. This is a sensible arrangement that makes sense when you're actually using the camera, especially if you like to shoot one-handed. Sitting conveniently where your thumb should rest is a dial for altering certain settings, depending on the shooting mode you're in. If you're working in aperture priority, for example, it will adjust the aperture. If you're in manual mode, scrolling the dial will change shutter speed. If you hold down the exposure compensation button near the shutter release, you'll be able to adjust aperture. Adjusting the autofocus point is easy. Simply use the directional buttons on the four-way keypad and you can select the point you need. All 11 points are more or less centered around the middle of the scene, so if your subject is on the outer edges of the frame, you may find you need to focus and recompose by half-pressing the shutter release button. Pressing the I button on the left of the screen offers access to the camera's quick menu. Here, you can change common settings such as white balance, image quality, ISO, picture control, and so on, without having to delve into the main menu. I do not like the fact that the D3400 offers only Bluetooth connectivity with no Wi-Fi or NFC options. However, SnapBridge is a great app and useful for the target audience of this camera. It maintains a low-power, always-on Bluetooth connection with your phone, meaning that as soon as you take an image, it will be automatically resized and transferred to your phone. This makes sharing your shots on social media a near-instant process. Note that you can turn off this feature if you don't want to fill your phone's memory. I was pleased to see the D3400's metering didn't tend to overexpose when faced with a predominantly dark subject, although, as is the case with many DSLRs, it does appear to lean slightly towards underexposure when faced with brighter areas. Still, with a dedicated exposure compensation button on the top plate that works in conjunction with the rear command dial, any intervention here is fast and straightforward. The camera's auto white balance performance is similarly very good, with just a handful of slips during the course of this review. It did better than I expected under artificial lighting, with just a little warmth taken away from some scenes. Although performance under the traditionally difficult mixed natural-artificial conditions remained commendable. The D3400 is unlikely to be anyone's first choice for action photography, capable of shooting at a modest 5 frames per second. This performance is likely to be deemed adequate of most shooting situations, but those wanting to capture prolonged bursts may find it tricky to do so when shooting raw files. The camera's viewfinder produces a pleasingly clear, color-accurate, and reasonably bright rendition of the scene, while the LCD display beneath it is fixed in place and not sensitive to touch. These are not features we should expect as standard on an entry-level DSLR. but the key thing is that it can reproduce the scene faithfully and show details clearly. And with 921K dots, it does a good job to do both in balanced conditions and indoors. If you're looking for your first step into DSLR photography, then the D3400 is a great choice. You'll be entering a well-supported system that allows you to grow and develop your skills with time. In addition, it's a relatively affordable entry into more advanced photography. For beginners, the guide mode is super useful, and you should find that it helps you become a better photographer far more quickly. SnapBridge is the ideal app for the target user of this camera. Although the lack of Wi-Fi is frustrating in terms of being able to remotely control the camera, using the low-power Bluetooth connection to transfer shots without you having to do anything is ideal for those who want to share images online hassle-free. It's clear that some specifications have been left off in a bid to keep the cost down. The screen is fixed and isn't touch-sensitive, plus video is restricted to Full HD. However, if you're simply looking to get on the first rung of the DSLR ladder, the D3400 is an excellent choice.